Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of the Teesside Business Podcast. Today we are joined by Andy Larmouth, magician extraordinaire.
Hello.
I think that's your official title.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, unsurprisingly, you are the first magician that we have had on the Teesside
That's
Business
nice.
Podcast.
That's nice.
To be honest, you're the only magician I know in Teesside, which is a testament to you and how good your magic is versus everyone else's that might be out there who I'm offending now as we talk about it. So, do you want to start off by giving us a brief overview, kind of like, of your career history and then how that led to you being like a magician and then how that transpires into
Yeah,
actually
sure.
being a job?
So it's not the usual route. If you ask most magicians how they got into it, they got a magic kit as a kid.
Yeah.
They joined a magic club, and that was that. I didn't do my first trick till I was 34-year-old. Previous to that, I've always made my living as a musician, a guitarist. I played in bands. I was teaching, and then it got to the point after doing that for about 20 years. I had my kids, and suddenly everything that was great about being in a band, being on tour, being away, which I used to love, suddenly wasn't so fun anymore. Getting in at 3 in the morning and having the kids get me up early doors became really hard work. So we were playing a lot of weddings and corporate functions and that kind of thing. And then I was lucky enough to meet a guy called Lee Smith, who really, still to this day, kind of mentors me a little bit, points me in the right direction. He taught me magic, he taught me the business side of things, and he basically gave me a doorway to remain in entertaining, but to get home at a sensible hour and spend a lot more time with the family, which was great.
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, what kind of a timeline is it then? So, you didn't do your first trick till you were 34, which I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we used to see Lee at quite a lot of the gigs the band would be playing at, and as people do to me now, we'd always be excited. Oh, Lee's here, shows a trick. And I've always enjoyed watching magic. It never occurred to me to perform magic, but I've always enjoyed watching it. And just in conversations with him, I said to him one night, I said, how do you get into it? Because there's the whole thing, as a magician, you never reveal the secret. So how on earth is there ever any new magicians? And I'm not going to tell you that now either. So I hounded him and said, you got to teach me. I love this. Can you tell me? So he recommended a few books. And I think looking back, it was a bit of a test because these books were written written in like the 20s, really hard going. And he said, go away, read these books, teach yourself a couple of things, and if you do it, come back to me. And always being one for a challenge, I was like, right, I'm going to do it. So I got hold of these books and taught myself just a few fairly simple tricks. And this was over a period of a few months, and got back to him, Lee, I've learnt the tricks. And I think he was a bit surprised that I'd done it. And, so he then introduced me to a magic club, and that was kind of the door opening. Once I had the foot in the door there, you meet other magicians, you then learn how to do more things, and it grew from there really. I got my first paid magic gig from a friend whose sister was getting married. Invited me along to, I think chucked me a few quid and said, do you want to come do magic at the wedding? And after that night, I was terrified. It was a terrifying experience, but I came away from that wedding just going, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
I was absolutely buzzing.
So, how long did it take you from learning those initial tricks out of the book, etc., and then joining the magic club to the point where you did the first wedding?
I was kind of lucky. It was a relatively short amount of time, about 9 months. But you got to remember, at the time I was working in the band, so we were doing a lot of corporate dues in London. And at these big hotels, more often than not, the ballrooms would be in the basement, so you'd have to get a service lift down with all the gear, and you'd have to be set up and sound checked by lunchtime, even though you weren't on stage till maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of downtime to kill. And more often than not, we'd end up in a pub or just sitting around, and I thought, there's a lot of dead time I'm not making use of, so this was going to be my practice time. So I'd spend hours, 3-4 times a week, just sat in the dressing room, shuffling cards, practicing bits and pieces, and the bit I was really lucky with, I had a ready-made audience, so the band would play maybe 2 one-hour sets or 3 one-hour sets with a gap in between. So in this gap in between, rather than going back to the dressing room, I'd go out into the audience and literally say, I've been learning magic, can I show you something? So I had an actual real-life audience to practice on,
that's fantastic.
rather than practicing into the mirror or practicing with family who all thinks it's a bit funny, do you know what I mean? So it was a real-life situation. So rather than just practicing the trick, I was getting a really great opportunity to practice with a real-life person. And you learn a lot from that, different character types. And
yeah, like we've had previous conversations obviously around it, and it's like I've thought more about it. actually the magic bit of it and learning the tricks is a very small part of it. The rest is kind of like the performance, or like when you think about it,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people who listen and things like that imagine having to go up to a complete group of strangers that you never know and then try and convince them to let you do magic, and then you've got to pick who you can do magic with or you can't. Like you told me, which I couldn't believe, but what I've previously met, there's people out there who don't like magic.
Oh, they're out there.
Yeah. Which we were pulled over by in the office, because obviously whenever Andy comes in, we're lucky we've done some stuff with him with clients and things like that. We've just badgered him straight away for new tricks and things like that, and we're like a big group of kids in the office. Like we just
Well,
around.
all this stuff is something that's really important to me, and recently more than ever, I think about this every day. Is that the actual magic tricks, the physical thing that I do, the sleight of hand, it's all that side of things. It's pretty irrelevant, actually. I think the real magic happens. I should give you a bit of backstory. I did a wedding a little while ago, just last year, and I was performing to a group of lads who were crazy enthusiastic, really loved it, and they were like, "You've got to come and meet this girl." Me thinking, "Oh, she must really like magic." Anyway, they dragged me through to another room, show her a trick, and she looked at me and she was like, "I don't really like magic." Which is fine, and not everyone does. Thankfully, 99% of people do love it, but she just didn't like it. She wasn't rude about it. I was like, it's fine. I don't really. But these lads had a few beers and they were really insistent. So I was like, I'm really sorry. I showed her a trick, and that was that. Later on that evening, I got into a conversation with her. And it was quite eye opening. I asked her reasons for not liking magic, and the main reason was that she just didn't get it. She described it as it's fake tricks.
Yeah.
And it, I guess it kind
well,
of.
You're not
it
Harry
kind
Potter.
of is.
No,
well, this is the thing, Dynamo stepped out onto the Thames and walked on water. Now we all know, that this guy from Bradford can't walk on water, and yet millions of us watched it and went, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" David Copperfield on an almost daily basis flies in his Vegas show. Yeah. We know he can't fly, and yet we watch it and go, "Oh, there's no explanation for it," even though we know that it can't happen. So where's the magic in it? And I've come to the conclusion that the magic is with the person watching it. What I do is irrelevant. All I can do is open the door. I sound so cheesy, but open the door for that person's wonder. And if they allow themselves to feel that, it's a really special moment.
It is like quite an... we've talked about, I'm the perfect person to do magic for. As you know, I'm a massive kid. I absolutely love it. My brain's split in A. I'm in wonder. And the other side of it, I want to know how it's done.
Well, interestingly, when you just said that, that you're a massive kid, and I've got 4 kids, and so I see it almost on a daily basis. That sense of wonder that kids do have.
Yeah.
And it's the adults. At some point, we sort of shut that off, and we know we think we know how the world works, and has an order, and it's the people that really allow themselves to get back to that childlike amazement and wonder, and it's not for me. I love performing, and I love the buzz I get from allowing people to get that feeling. But for the person experiencing that, it's a really powerful thing. It's nice escapism, even if it's only for a couple of minutes from the day-to-day world. Really, it's good.
I think it's phenomenal. So, what is it like when I know you recently was it Brighton that you did the convention? Blackpool, sorry. Where there was is it the National Magicians Convention?
Yeah, the international. So about 4,500 magicians descend on Blackpool from all over the world.
Yeah. I've just got visions of rabbits coming out of hats in every bar.
Oh, it's amazing. So can I actually, before we go on with this, there's something I've got to set straight. So a lot of people, I see it a lot at wedding fairs that I do. People will walk past and they'll say, "Oh, but we haven't got kids at the wedding." There's this real preconception still of that cheesy magician with the top hat and the wand.
Which would be me if I could do magic. We know we've talked about it. I would absolutely have a cape on at all times. And
maybe I should do it. Maybe
when people ask me for a card, it would appear out of nowhere. I'd be terrible, which is why I don't.
But it does. Magic does have that really sort of, I guess, cheesy preconception. That child, that the kids entertainers type thing, and things that have helped it recently, the likes of David Blaine and Dynamo, and the Penn and Teller show, have changed people's perceptions of it a bit. But there's still that thing, and I spend a lot of my time explaining to people what I'm not rather than what I do. There's no wands, there's no top hats, there's none of that. Which I don't know. It makes some people sad, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
No. But so when you go to the conventions and stuff like that, obviously, I imagine it's a lot of, like, I imagine the industry is huge for businesses to sell either tricks or equipment and stuff like that to
so
vendors
at the
such as
convention, there's kind of three aspects to it. There's performance, so there's a lot of shows, there's a lot of demonstrations, and even just watching someone else perform, you can learn a lot. There's the more formal lectures where a magician will be teaching some stuff, usually with an upsell for some stuff that he's selling after it. But again, great opportunity to learn. And then there's the dealer's hall, which is just this enormous Aladdin's cave of props and tricks and toys.
I was going to say, it must be never ending.
I mean, you can spend a lot of money, and a classic magician thing is to have drawers at home full of stuff that you'll never perform. Because, of course, you see someone demonstrating it, and you think, wow, that looks amazing. You get it home, and you realise it's completely unachievable. Or actually doesn't look quite as good as you thought it did when you're all excited.
So what's it like for magicians doing tricks for magicians then? Because obviously I imagine if I had a stall at this thing and I had to demonstrate these tricks to magicians, I am in my head the most either cynical bunch possible because they've seen behind the curtain, as it were, or they are like me and the biggest kids ever and they want to see magic. So
it's a bit of an even split across both. I mean, mainly because of the way I got into magic, I generally don't spend a lot of time in the how would you describe it, the magic community. There's quite a big online magic community. Quite often magicians themselves, I guess because they've spent a lot of time on their own since childhood practicing tricks, are quite socially awkward people. There's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of backbiting, there's a lot of ego. It's a strange world to be in. That said, there's some absolutely incredible people as well, and quite often the most successful magicians are the ones who are generous with their knowledge, with their experience, with their expertise, which is great. So there's some, it's really there's real extremes. Like the nice guys, the good guys are really, really fantastic, and the ones you wouldn't particularly want to spend time with are horrific, and they're very vocal, especially on forums. There's a lot of keyboard warriors in the magic world,
especially like people who can do one trick and then all of a sudden they're on line saying they're the greatest magician ever.
I mean that brings up the subject of YouTube as well. I mean, for a magician, YouTube, it's a great platform to get yourself out there, but equally there's endless people kind of giving away tricks or performing them badly. They haven't rehearsed them enough, and so you can see how it's done anyway. So a lot of time spent looking for material that you wouldn't be able to find on YouTube. So it's an interesting thing, but I don't think it's there's quite a lot of magicians that see it as a problem and think it'll be the downfall of magic. I don't think it will. I think for people to go to the effort to look stuff up, most people just end of the day, most people enjoy being entertained. They like the feeling of wonder, they like the feeling of amazement, and they're happy with that.
It must be like a small percentage of overall people that like are going on YouTube and searching for how to do magic tricks.
And they're
mostly magicians anyway. One thing that you did mention there is obviously the fact that within magicians is that unwritten rule, or a written rule, I don't know actually, that you don't tell people how tricks are done, or to regular people and things like that. And obviously there is the magic circle. Like you are in the magic circle.
I am. I've been a full member for 3-4 years now.
Now, to most people, like us outsiders looking in, it is kind of like this secretive type society where you think if you are in the magic circle, then you are a wizard, and like. So, what? Just tell us a little bit about what does it take to get in the magic circle, and what does that mean? Like, is it a stamp of approval for magicians, or is it a cool thing? The secret handshakes, like.
Again, a bit of all of that, really. I mean, it's the Magic Circle itself is an organisation. Its headquarters are in London. I think, don't quote me on this because I haven't looked. I think there's around 3,000-ish members worldwide. Outside of that, there are a lot of other magic clubs that often use the words Magic Circle within their titles. They're not affiliated to them. But there's for anyone listening to this that wants to get into magic, local magic clubs are a great way to do it. It's a good starting point. But the Magic Circle itself is I love it. It's a great organisation. I say getting into magic, it was always a bit of one of my goals was to become a member. But to become a member, you have to be invited or seconded by an existing member. You do an audition, an exam, an interview. It's quite a process to get in there. So it's a sense of achievement when you get that certificate and your badge and stuff. So you're in there. Essentially, it's a magic club.
Yeah.
But a pretty high profile one. Some fantastic members in there. Some unusual members in there. Nigel Mansell. He's an absolutely mad magic fan. Yeah.
Is he?
Prince Charles is another famous member in the magic circle. As well as some other plenty of other people as well, you know, like Dynamo and Darren Brown and all those guys as well. So yeah, it's a great place to learn. The downside for me, obviously being in the northeast, is that they have meetings every Monday, which obviously is a bit far for me to go to London, but they've now started streaming them in the secret Facebook group, which is great. So it means I can attend every Monday, you know, watch the lectures, watch the
when you say they meet every Monday, I've just got this is terrible, but they've got like a platform 9.5 somewhere, you know, where they can walk through.
You know what? It kind of is.
Secret.
So the HQ, members of the public can visit it actually, and if you're ever in London, I'd urge you to do it. It is a genuinely magical place. So it's in a bit of a side street near King's Cross.
Yeah.
And you're walking up this scruffy side street. There's double doors with a small logo on the door, and it looks pretty inconspicuous. Now, as a member, you get your membership card, and on the membership card's a little QR code, and you scan the door. Yeah. And it opens up, and you walk in, and there's this beautiful big logo inlaid on the floor, and this incredible spiral staircase going up, and inside they've got a museum which has got some of Houdini's original props, all these different incredible stuff. A museum, a huge library, tens of thousands probably of magic books in there. I mean, you can it's literally like Hogwarts. A beautiful theatre, then loads of other. There's a bar. There's obviously it's an amazing place, and they do host corporate events there. And as a member of the public, you can go. They arrange times you can go and visit, and it's amazing.
So moving on to kind of like the business side of it and everything. Obviously, you mentioned corporate events, and I know you do corporate events as weddings and things like that. How did it go from somebody being able to do magic and then starting practicing to actually then turn that into a business?
So the majority at the moment of my business is weddings. I mean, magic works really well at weddings, mainly so people don't get bored. You know, for brides and grooms, the wedding day is never going to be boring. They're so involved with it. But for guests at a wedding, you know, if you've ever been to a wedding recently, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of time sitting about, and
especially between the ceremony and then when speeches and stuff start.
That's right. And so I go in there and make sure everyone's, you know, the energy's high, they're having a great time. And the great thing about magic, it's memorable. People come up to me, and I'm talking 2-3 years after they've seen me at a wedding. Andy, you know, you showed me this, and they remember this stuff. On the corporate side of things, what you got to think of, my job really isn't so much do magic tricks. I walk into rooms full of people that I don't know, and within seconds I have to make
That's Rick taking photographs, by the way.
Don't breaking my concentration.
Yeah.
So, you know, I walk in a room full of strangers. Within seconds, I have to make a connection with people.
Yeah.
I have to get rapport with people. I have to leave them with something they're going to remember. You know, have an impact, and all those skills. If you take the actual magic side of it out of it, those skills are really useful to sales teams, to companies.
Yeah, very transferable.
And so something I've started doing this year, I was with Bespoke in January and stuff, doing some workshops and talks on mainly getting out of your comfort zone, which is what I have to do every single time I perform, and making connections with people and being able to connect in a not just connect, but connect in a memorable way. One thing I did when I first moved to the northeast, which was getting on for just over 4 years ago now, I moved up here from Bedfordshire, didn't have any contacts really in weddings or in business or in magic, and I just got out there and had conversations, and it's something I've noticed that people don't do, and it blows my mind. I went to a lot of networking stuff, and
I was going to say, I bet like a lot of the skills that you've got transfer over to networking.
Absolutely,
very well.
But I was finding, and still do, I go to a networking event and people, oh hi, I'm such and such, what do you do? And they'll reel off what they do, and I'm stood there thinking, I still have no idea what you do. and essentially everyone really is trying to sell to someone else, and I think they're missing a trick, excuse the pun, with networking. I make a point of at least 3 times a week having a meeting with someone. Now this is a non-agenda meeting. This is a meeting that has no specific reason. It's just to have a conversation, and at that point they know who I am, I know who they are, and it might be in 6 months time I'm having a conversation with someone else. I could really do with someone that can make some video content. I know these lads that can do that, or that deal with their social media, and it's amazing when you start actually helping people. with not looking for any gain, stuff comes back to you. It's really good.
I agree with
it's
that.
really good.
One of the great things about the podcast is that we've managed to like start now. We're at a level where we've done obviously this is the 29th, but linking guests up and things like that, or even our customers where we've been able to point them down the direction and stuff like that. It's a great kind of thing to like be able to do.
Definitely, I think, and the northeast is it's funny seeing it as in contrast to where I've come up from, and it's very much certainly in the business side of things. It is a community. A lot of people know everyone, and so if everyone can help everyone else, it can only benefit the entire area, which is great.
I noticed that you were at the Teesside Business Show last week.
Yeah.
How did you find it? Was it a good event?
Yeah. As with a lot of things, my kind of my agenda really is just to get my face out there to meet people I've maybe not seen for a while, and just have a chat with different businesses about what they're doing, see if there's anything I can help with or anything they can help me with. There was some good seminars on as well, some interesting stuff.
I always think that the business shows are always a bit of it's kind of like networking, but literally just rows of people like trying to sell other people things. It's a bit of a weird.
It is a weird one, and again, very much like wedding fairs, there's something that drives me crazy. And again, last week I saw it. There's very often at wedding fairs, at business shows, you'll see a company set up, and I won't say any names or anything, obviously, but you'll see a company set up. And they've got their bowl of sweets on the front or their cupcakes, and they're sat behind the table flicking on their phone. They don't really want to be there, and it's an absolutely enormous missed opportunity. Again, it comes down to conversations. And another thing that I do a little bit of, and that I'd love to get more into, is trade shows and performing at trade shows. Literally attract delegates to a stand, start a conversation, find out what they do, but actually mean it,
Yeah.
And it is just about communication, that's all.
Well, you've previously like demonstrated some of the stuff that you would do at trade shows and do, like especially helping companies with branding. To like for a lot of these companies, trade shows are a branding exercise to get the name out there and get people to remember them.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, trade shows, companies have very different reasons for wanting to get out there. Sometimes it's just awareness, sometimes it's to sell a specific service or product or
And like the stuff that you do is great for as far as like it's something different that makes people remember, and they've got that recall.
I was going to say, and the memory part of it's really important, because people will go away and talk about it, and obviously in a trade show environment, they link what they remember me doing to the company itself or the product.
Like I remember we did obviously we work with the Combined Authority to do the Teesside Business Summit and stuff like that. We cover it for those guys. And there was a couple of people there, like we were going around and everyone was just giving away, like the majority was giving away pens. And I was thinking, well, the marketing cost that you've gone through here is just like worthless.
So my little confession is, like, for example, at the show last week, it's a great opportunity to stock up on stationery.
Yeah.
Which sounds awful. It sounds awful. But, I think sometimes there's a lack of creativity in terms of giveaways and stuff at these events.
Yeah.
It only takes a little bit of thought to do something slightly different.
Yeah. I remember one guy at one of them, I can't remember which company it was, but he was giving away, like charging banks. But he, like, obviously everyone descended on him because it was a great freebie.
Yeah.
And then he had nothing after the first 20 minutes, and it was kind of like, I didn't really think.
I mean, a good example, last year or earlier in the year, the Northeast Expo up at the Falcons ground, there was a company, and again, a perfect example, because I can't remember who it was. They were giving away little torches. These were great. Yeah. And I stood at the front of the table and I was looking, and the person behind the table sort of looked at me and said, "Can I have one of them torches?" They were like, "Yeah, of course you can." So I took a torch, and that was that. I walked off with the torch. There was no effort to find out who I was, or was I interested in what they were doing. It was, and it's just, I find it a bit bizarre, if I'm honest with you.
It is. And cards on the table. This is a pun central list. We don't do them. We don't do trade shows. I personally don't. It's not that I don't see the value in it. I just believe that for what they're costing and stuff, we can deploy better value elsewhere.
Yeah, I think trade shows done right are excellent. In fact, there's someone I've met recently, Steve and Nicola Reeder. They might be worth getting on the podcast, actually.
Yeah, if they're listening, we'd happily have anybody.
Steve and Nicola Reeder. So they have a company called 12th Man Marketing, and they do essentially training for teams that are doing trade shows.
All right, okay.
And they've just brought out a book called The Exhibitionist, which actually isn't out yet. I've got hold of an advanced copy, which is excellent. So a bit of a plug for them.
Yeah.
If you are involved in trade shows, check it out. The Exhibitionist, great stuff.
Yeah. Well, when this goes out, please tag them below, and then people can be able to find them. So, with going out and I know that you have done a lot of networking, but not necessarily joined like a structured networking organisation.
I've done that as well.
Yeah. How have you found other businesses to work with in Teesside and stuff like as like a community of business? Has it been a good experience, bad experience?
On the whole, an excellent experience actually. Yeah. There's some fantastic people out there, and I think that's the key to it. Is the people, it's the individuals. I've done a fair bit of work for example, down at the Riverside on match days doing the corporate boxes and the
you do a lot of work for the borough.
And again, it's a great opportunity for people networking that are in those corporate areas, and everyone's been really nice. Not just nice, but actually, on the whole, really helpful to each other as well.
Yeah.
And there is a great network in the Northeast. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce, which was a fantastic experience. Tees Valley Business Club I was a member of for a couple of years. Fantastic experience. The reason I'm not anymore is simply because as my business has grown, the times they meet are clashing with events that I'm doing, so it wasn't worth me being. I'm currently a member of a group called Deliberately Different, which is absolutely fantastic. In fact, Mike, who shares your office, is another member.
Previous guest Mike Lewis from Breakout Media. He was been one of our previous.
And they've been great, really, really good learning of other businesses. It's a great opportunity to find out what they're doing that's working, and to share best practice and all that kind of stuff.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. So I suppose I better ask the question that everybody wants to know: can you show us any magic? It's a bit funny because it is recorded and stuff like that. So
I was going to say magic on audio is an interesting one. So previously, for example, I've done a few times. I've been on Julie Donaldson's show on Zetland FM. Which has always been quite good fun. So without seeing it, I'll leave it to you to describe. So
we can't see it. Obviously, it's fully video recorded, isn't it? So that's what I'm saying. It's like,
all right, let's do it.
For anybody who's listening on our podcast channels, you can obviously watch it on Facebook or YouTube, and most of the time it's shared on my personal LinkedIn as well. Okay.
So deck cards, I've popped it on top of the water bottle there just for dramatic effect. The water bottle doesn't really help it. And we'll do this we'll do a quick version of this. So before I come here today, I had an idea that you might be asking me to do a trick.
Yeah.
So I thought we'll try a prediction. I've made a prediction.
Okay.
And in a moment, I'm going to get you to name a card.
Okay.
Out loud. Any of 52 cards, I take the jokers out. This could be a red card, a black card, a picture card, a number card.
Yep.
Hearts, clubs, spades, diamonds, any of those things. I might be just saying all this to influence you. It might mean nothing. I don't know. So for the first time, have you got a card?
Yes.
Was it the Ace of Spades?
No.
How good would that have been, though?
Yeah.
What card were you thinking of?
Jack of Clubs.
The Jack of Clubs. So out of these 52 cards, this has been on top of the water bottle the entire time. Let me show you. Inside this deck of cards, if I just go through here, there's one card face down out of the entire pack.
It's witchcraft!
Burn him!
Burn him at the stake! It's not right. I love it. I think it's phenomenal. That's incredible, you know what I mean?
It's a lovely trick. A lovely trick.
Yeah. But it's something that must be quite simple for you to do. I'm not going to ask how you do it or anything like that. I don't want to know. But for just stuff like that, it's just amazing to do at events and things like that.
It's great fun, and I'm so lucky that I get the opportunity in doing what I do to make. What am I trying to say? To make people feel something that maybe they've never felt before, or certainly not for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's lovely, that's the buzz. That's what I get from it.
Yeah.
The selfish side of it. It's great to be able to make people laugh and smile and be amazed, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, you just need to come here every day. We just huddle around.
I always say it beats working for a living. Yeah, that's for sure.
It was a good experience when we came. Obviously, you've done something for our clients and things like that. It was a different experience for us recording magic. Yeah. And doing it in certain ways and stuff like that. A few good outtakes and things like that. We had to do some stuff involving fire. Health and safety was not allowed in the building that day, but it was good fun to do.
Yeah.
So one of the things we kind of ask everybody when they come on the podcast, we ask everybody the same three questions. And the three questions in order are: the The first one is, what does success look like to you? We ask it because everybody gives a different answer.
Yeah.
People have said, when I'm a millionaire, when my business is so much. Some people have said, I'm already a success. People have said, when I can spend more time with family, or this is what I'm doing. Like, everybody's different. It's great for people to kind of hear that it's not just like a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah,
that,
for sure.
The second one is, have you ever had a failure, or at the time was perceived as a failure or a setback that's later led to success? Kind of pointed you down the road of where at the time it was terrible, and you couldn't see past it, but actually what it did was allow you to move down a different way. And then the third one is one thing that you are obsessed with at the moment. Now, we've had everything there. Mike's was, when he came on, he had just started to watch Game of Thrones, so he was unbelievably obsessed with that. Ben Houchin, who came on last week, is unbelievably obsessed with like home automation, like Alexas and stuff like that. So he's just started to do that, so he was really like into that. We've had people say gadgets. Dan Main, who came on, who has a drone company called DJM, he was picking up a drone that afternoon, so he was really excited. So we've had anything and everything. So it's just a bit of a daft question for people to ask.
Nice.
So we'll start with the first one of, what does success look like to you?
So this is a tricky question for me. I think about this a lot. Now, I make my living and a nice living performing magic tricks for people. So in a lot of respects, I am successful. I've got no one telling me what I have to do. I'm at the moment, and hopefully it won't change, essentially the master of my own destiny, which is a lovely position to be in. So that's success for me. But also, I've got a pretty big family, and looking to the future, the financial success, it'd be lovely to earn six figures and beyond. Yeah. It's possible, maybe at some point in the future. So that'd be success. It's that fine line between being grateful for what you've got and being content, but also striving for more. But that in itself can become a bit tiring. So in some respects, success is I'm living it, and others I'm a long way from it.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of people out there who are just starting to be a magician, and all they want, like, they could be in a cubicle somewhere or an office job or in Asda or something, and their dream would be to learn and a living out of magic. You know what I mean? Like, that's, they don't want past that. They don't want.
Well, I think that's the thing with success. It's a continually moving goalpost.
Yeah. I
haven't really given you an answer at all.
No, it's a great answer to kind of like be grateful of where you are, because it's a long way from where you started. Yeah. But obviously want to strive for more. Yeah. It's something like we talk about a lot. Is sometimes people, especially that don't know like what they want the end thing to look like. So by the time they end up growing, like being very successful in business, but they grow a massive company, are actually miserable and were much happier when it was just them doing kind of what they wanted and stuff like that. So there's loads of different answers. It's really interesting to hear. So the second one, have you ever had a failure or what was perceived as a failure?
Oh my God, so many. So many. On small and big levels. So small levels, tricks that go wrong, for example. Now, I'm in a position now with experience that occasionally things do go wrong, but the audience don't know.
You can kind of make it up.
There was one time, I'll tell this little. Have I got enough time for you to tell a little story? So this is a really beautiful trick where I get you to think of someone famous, alive or dead. I get a blank bit of card, and as I'm talking to you, I'm cutting this piece of card. Yeah. You then name the person that you were thinking of, and I open the card, and I've cut out a silhouette. Yeah. And at this point, there's no going back if it goes wrong because you've cut it out. So I'm with this table of people, and for some reason I've decided they're thinking of Bob Marley. Yeah. I'm absolutely convinced this is who they're thinking of. So it gets to I've cut this card out, ready to do the big reveal, expecting applause and adoration. Who are you thinking of? Cristiano Ronaldo. No, really, who are you thinking of? Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. There's no way back. I open this thing up. Great cutout of Bob Marley. Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo's nowhere to be seen. And I think I something along the lines of, this is him at a fancy dress party, and moved on swiftly to the next trick. It was fine. On the bigger side of things, generally through times I've been pushing myself to get into an area that I've never done before, and attempt essentially blagging it, I suppose. So for an example, getting into the corporate side of things, I remember once getting asked to do a pretty high profile corporate event, and it was all ready to go. They were booking, it was for a figure that I would never earned before. It was very exciting, and then they said, can you send us your show reel over? Oh, I haven't got one. And from it being ready to sign on the dotted line to suddenly going, oh God, I have no clue what I'm doing, was a steep learning curve, but a good one, good one. And I think that's constant. I always try and push myself, so I am out of my comfort zone regularly, and I think that's the only way to progress. It does happen more often than I'd like, but actually I've got to the point now most of the time where I try and see it that there isn't any failures. There's only times to learn stuff. I think if you see it as a failure, that's maybe not a good mindset to have.
Someone said it before, I can't remember who it was, that at the end of the day no one really remembers your failures, no one cares. Like,
oh, for sure, it's only you that does.
You know, when you look back at, like, I know, like, there's that famous quote, isn't it, by Michael Jordan saying, I missed this many game-winning shots and stuff. But nobody remembers him for that. They remember that.
And if you've learned something from it, then it's not a failure.
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly. I absolutely agree. And it is a really common trend of every business person we get on. If at the beginning of the career to people who've built incredible businesses, failure is just a massive part of it, and everybody does it. And no matter what level you are at business, like, it's a big failure for you at the time, but it always, like, if you know, it's only if you give up then you
absolutely.
And the third one is something that you are. Oh, I've got a feeling this is good. That you are obsessed by at the moment.
See, the only thing that's coming in my head, and I don't really want to admit it, but
no, it's fine. Exclusive.
So I spend my entire waking life and a whole bunch of my sleeping life thinking about my business. I love it. If you'd have known me 20 years ago, I had long dreadlocks. I was a bit of a hippie musician, and if you'd have said to me I'd eventually make my living wearing a suit and enjoying business, I just wouldn't have believed you. But here I am, and I do love it, and I'm constantly thinking about it, and it drives my family nuts, you know, because I do constantly think about this. So I thought I need some way of switching off. So I thought, something I used to do as a kid, I thought I'm gonna buy myself an Airfix model. You know, like model aeroplane, that kind of thing. So I went to the shop, bought myself a model car. Opened it up, like all the plastic bits and the glue and the paint. And so rather than this being something I go to and do every now and then to switch off, literally it's all I focused on every evening for about 4 weeks.
Just started. And
I can't leave it alone. It's ridiculous. It's so geeky.
No, it's fantastic.
It's so geeky.
Could be worse. You could have invested in an electric skateboard like Mike next door and fell off it. And ended up
That's
in
next.
hospital.
That's next.
The next midlife crisis. I'm so glad I can embarrass him on this podcast. So if people are looking to get in touch with you, whether it is for the corporate events, for weddings, for trade shows, like especially, where's the best place for them to do it?
So there's the three aspects of my business really that people listen to if this would be useful to you: weddings, trade shows to represent their stand and their business, and training. So getting in to do a workshop and a talk for your employees, which I think they'll get a lot from. So the best place to get in touch with me is via my website, which is www.andylarmouth.com /weddings /corporate. You can email me at info@andylarmouth.com. I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, which is Andy Larmouth Magic, or give me a call.
All that will be linked down below in the questions. Thanks very much for coming on, bud.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great to chat to you. Obviously, I've looked very much forward to you coming in. I always look forward to you coming in.
And I should say, if anyone that's listening to this does want to meet up for no reason other than to have a chat, have a coffee, and see a bit of magic, I'm always up for a meeting.
I would thoroughly recommend it to everybody. It's fantastic. I get them coming for meetings just to see new magic. It's brilliant. So this has been episode 29 of the Teesside Business Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. The Teesside Business Podcast is promoted and produced by Person to Person Marketing. Thank you very much.